Next, what we got for you is the next head-to-head in December, and that happened on December 16th, 1996. We'll start off with Nitro. We see Zbyszko and Tony Schiavone. They run down the show for tonight, and as they're doing that, the NWO music hits. For some reason, it takes Schiavone and Zbyszko forever to realize that they're coming, but the NWO come to the announce table, and Bischoff tells them to leave, but Schiavone and Zbyszko don't want to. So Zbyszko tells them it's going to take a few more of them to make him leave, but eventually he leaves anyway. So I guess he wasn't going to back that up. So Bischoff and DiBiase take over the commentary table and they welcome us to Monday Night Nitro. And we go into our first match. It is Psychosis versus Steven Regal for the TV title. Bischoff on commentary tells us that tonight Sting will be facing Rick Steiner. We'll see about that.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, that surely would have got me to keep the channel on Nitro.
Yeah, but I think most people, I would think they would assume that they probably met NWO Sting. We'll see. During this match, Psychosis hits a suicide dive on Regal, and then he later hits a top rope Frankensteiner for a 2 count. Bischoff on commentary isn't really too interested in the match, as he spends most of his time talking about Hogan being a wrestling god.
I really hate it when the commentary team doesn't talk about what's going on in the ring. Bischoff as a face, I think in the early days of Nitro wasn't terrible. But when he turned heel, whenever he would go to the announce desk, I was more annoyed with him than not, just because he wouldn't put over talent. He basically buried talent as the match was going by not giving a shit, you know?
Later in the match, Regal is able to turn the match into his favor, and he starts utilizing different holds so he can ground the high-flying Psychosis, and Regal eventually wins the match with the Regal stretch. But for a Nitro match, I thought it was a pretty good match, and both men were able to show off their movesets, and the crowd was pretty into it.
I always liked Regal's matches with the Luchadors. I thought it was just an interesting clash of styles.
And they gave this match some time for a Nitro match, 11 minutes, 8 seconds.
Yeah, for Nitro, anything over 10, you take it.
And that would definitely be the longest match of the night.
Yeah.
But before we go over to Raw, we'll go to the second match here for Nitro. It is Big Bubba versus Chavo Guerrero. Big Bubba does not come out with Jimmy Hart this week. We'll see if that goes anywhere. But for the match, Chavo gets on the offensive early on. He sends Big Bubba out of the ring, but he tries to do a dive onto Bubba. But Bubba catches him and he slams Chavo into the ground. And then he picks him up and he scoop slams him on the outside. Soon after that, they get back into the ring. And Chavo hits what Naomi calls the rear view onto Bubba. And Bischoff is like, what the hell was that? So Naomi didn't make that move up. Chavo might have.
Obviously, just a coincidence. No one watched the Big Bubba versus Chavo Guerrero match and was like, huh.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There's no way Naomi saw that and was like, you know what? I'm going to take that. But Chavo, he tries to knock down Bubba, but once again, Bubba catches him, and he hits the Boss Man Slam for the win.
It's Bubba Slam, sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, that's copyright.
I do love that finish. It's not even Boss Man. It's any wrestler that catches, like Abyss. It's such a great spot. Love it.
Yeah, very well done. But this match was only 2 minutes and 53 seconds. Not bad match at all here. Some nice offense from Chavo and Boss Man, but nothing too great with that limited time. And after that, we go to a ramp interview with Sonny Ono and Masahiro Chono. But Mean Gene asks Ono about getting his client Chono a contract with the WCW. Sonny explains that he is trying to get his client a contract, but Masahiro Chono must not be on the same page as Sonny Ono because Chono shows that he is wearing an NWO shirt.
Ono freaks out. I just thought it was funny, his reaction.
Yeah. He was very surprised that Masahiro is wearing an NWO shirt. Chono then grabs Sonny Ono and pushes him away, so clearly those two are not going to be associated with one another, but it just felt very random because I don't think many people didn't have that strong connection with those two, so no one really cared.
If you were an avid WCW watcher, Chono has been around for years, but obviously it's on and off.
Yeah, but clearly also WCW is going to start a NWO Japan group, and of course this is going to lead into that. And that group actually was pretty successful too. But after Chono does that, we go to our third match, which is Masahiro Chono versus Chris Jericho. But Bischoff on commentary starts talking about Lex Luger, and he says that Vince McMahon was shocked to see Lex Luger show up to WCW, and he makes fun of last night's In Your House pay-per-view, saying he saw some of it and he had enough and couldn't continue watching it.
No, it wasn't a great show. I would be feeling pretty cocky if I was Eric too after that show.
But I was surprised to hear him say Vince McMahon's name on the show.
Yeah.
They usually kind of dance around it. But he must have been feeling really good, so he was like, I don't care. He can't beat me. But we go back to the match here. Chris Jericho goes for a top rope move, but Jericho misses Chono. But Chono, for some reason, sells it anyway.
Strange.
But late in the match here, Jericho gets on the apron and Chono punches Jericho off of it. Jericho's legs kind of get stuck in the ropes and Chono takes advantage of the situation and he starts choking and kicking Jericho while he's prone. And the ref starts calling for the bell, ruling a disqualification. I thought it was a weak disqualification. This match wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And Bischoff and DiBiase on commentary didn't really call any action. They were just talking about NWO things. That match took 5 minutes and 49 seconds, so I'm not very impressed with that. But let's go ahead and go over to Raw. Raw opens up with an in-ring interview with Bret Hart. Bret Hart says that ever since he came back to the WWF, things have changed. You can't tell who your friends or enemies are, or even what the rules are. Bret Hart says the problem with the WWF is that there are no rules. Bret says he wants to make something clear, and he says that if there are no rules, then that's fine, because with him, he doesn't need rules. Bret then starts moving on to Shawn Michaels' business here. He calls Shawn a prissy boy, and he says Shawn gave him his word that he would not interfere in the match last night, but he lied. And he cost him the WWF title. Bret tells everyone that since there are no more rules anymore, he would do absolutely anything and everything to get back on top. And so he announces himself as a participant in the upcoming Royal Rumble. And he ends up with saying he feels sorry for the other 29 guys. Bret then joins the commentary table for the next match. And there's a reason, you'll see. But this version of Bret, this is the start of Bret turning here. This is him becoming not the clean baby face. He's going to start having some heel stuff coming out of him slowly but surely. And this is when Bret starts getting really good at promos. So good stuff from Bret here. But our opening match here, and this is why Bret Hart's out here, it is Vader with Jim Cornette versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. JR also announces that Vader will be taking on The Undertaker at the Royal Rumble. It's random, but I can get behind that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
But the match starts, and Vader dominates the match in the beginning until Stone Cold hits a nice-looking Thesz press, and he starts stomping a mold hole into Vader, and that happens right as we go to commercial. After commercial, we come back to the match, and we see Vader get Stone Cold down, and he goes for the Vader bomb, but Stone Cold gets up and he low blows Vader, but the referee doesn't DQ him. The match goes onto the outside, near where Bret Hart is. I think we see where this is going. Bret Hart gets up from the commentary table and he chop blocks Stone Cold, repaying Stone Cold for last night. And then he puts on the sharpshooter on the outside. And Bret really lays on that sharpshooter. He holds it on for a while until Vader comes in. And Vader goes after Bret Hart for interfering in the match. Security escorts Vader out, and for some reason they don't escort Bret Hart out, so Bret Hart goes right back to Stone Cold and puts him in another sharpshooter until an army of people run out and get Bret Hart to eventually release the hold.
Yeah, I thought this was a great segment.
This is an A+ segment. We're putting a lot of heat on this Bret Hart-Stone Cold match. Bret Hart is showing a lot more edge to him. And the match itself was fun between Stone Cold and Vader. They had the crowd in the palm of their hands. They were actually enjoying this. But this is only 2 segments in so far with the promo and then match afterwards. This Raw is already shaping up to be the best Raw we've seen in ages.
Yeah, no, it's very, very good opener.
We'll see if they can continue that momentum, but we'll go ahead and go back to WCW, where we have a ramp interview with Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Mongo McMichael, and Deborah. Woman and Chris Benoit are not here, so me and Gene ask where they are. And Arn goes into talking about how, over the course of history, the kiss of a beautiful woman has poisoned a lot of great minds like Sullivan and Benoit. So I guess he's blaming woman for all these troubles here. Arn tells Sullivan that he has a solution for him, and he will help mend his broken heart later tonight. Flair then takes his turn. He does some of his usual shtick here until Deborah interrupts him, and then she starts talking down about Benoit, saying Benoit tried to hit on her, but she doesn't go for little boys. She only goes for real men like Mongo. That had to make Mongo feel good. She then starts talking down about woman, saying she couldn't win a beauty pageant like her.
She said she wouldn't have a dog's chance in hell of winning a beauty pageant.
A dog's chance in hell. What a brutal put down, Deborah. Stop it. But Flair ends the segment by telling Hogan that Piper will make Hogan pay the price. And as Flair is screaming on during this promo, he's losing his voice really bad by the end of this.
Yeah.
He was partying a bit too late last night. But this was another so-so segment from the Horsemen. They were a lot better earlier this year.
It just seemed like they put them on TV.
Yeah, they're just kind of spinning the wheels with the Horsemen at this point. The thing I get annoyed about with this era of the Horsemen is that almost once a month they have a promo saying that, oh man, we got to get back together. We're going to be a complete unit and we're going to be back to being the Horsemen. And yet a week after that, they're back to talking shit about each other. So it just never goes anywhere. But after that segment, we go into our 4th match, and it is Dave Sammartino versus Dean Malenko.
Sammartino looking shredded.
Yes, this is for the Cruiserweight title, but yes, it's Dave Sammartino. I believe he was on one of the first WrestleMania cards, and I remember watching that.
It's
And
pudgy. Yeah.
yes, he's kind of doughy. And if you look at him compared to this version of Dave Sammartino, I mean, this Dave Sammartino is jacked, baby. And this is, I don't know if it's his debut for WCW, but it's the first time we've seen him on our rewatches so far.
Last time, too.
Yes, yes, it will be. It's kind of weird they brought him in and then he's just gone. But this match only lasted 2 minutes, 57 seconds. They go back and forth with some mat wrestling, but Malenko wins the match with a pin reversal. And the ref counted 3, but it looked like Sammartino's shoulder was not down, but who cares? But yeah, this is kind of a nothing match, just a random appearance by Dave Sammartino, so that was the only notable thing here. And then after this match, Bischoff and DiBiase tell Bobby Heenan and the rest of the commentary team that they can come and have their commentary table back. So looks like maybe we'll actually start talking about the matches here soon. But we'll go to the 5th match, and it is Jerry Flynn versus Ice Train.
I was surprised to see Jerry Flynn so early. I thought he was more later, like 98 or something.
Yeah, so did I, yeah. This is the debut of the notorious WCW jobber, Jerry Flynn.
Also, during Ice Train's entrance, Teddy Long trips and falls. Not a good day for Teddy.
No, it's pretty hilarious too. But during this match, Tony Schiavone announces that the NWO will have their own pay-per-view this upcoming January, and it will be called Sold Out. Don't get your hopes up. It's not that good. But back to this match. I'll just go to the ending here. Jerry Flynn taps out to the ankle lock, and Ice Train does not let go of the hold for a while, but eventually he does let go and he leads. This leads to nowhere. I thought maybe Ice Train was having a heel turn, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I was hoping this would go more because Ice Train showed flashes, but I don't know. He really, if the rumor is true that he didn't want to be in a tag team with Scott Norton, I think that was a mistake on his part.
Yep, it sure was. I thought Fire and Ice was pretty good. After this match, we do see Six come out with the Outsiders for an interview. Scott Hall starts talking about how he's going to be watching Hollywood Hogan take care of Roddy Piper at Starrcade. But he says, as for tonight, they're going to put their tag titles on the line, and they want it to be against the Faces of Fear. And I was like, yes, please. Nash tells us the NWO took over the first half of the show to make sure that the people stay tuned in. And then for the second hour, they are going to grace us with a match. So they formally challenge the Faces of Fear to a tag match later tonight. And if you know Ming and Barbarian, they're not turning down a fight. But let's go back over to Raw, where we go to our second match of the night. It is Fake Razor Ramon and Fake Diesel versus the Godwins. How exciting.
No Hillbilly Jim tonight.
No, and the Godwins don't get an entrance this week, just showing how far they've fallen down the card. I'll get straight to the finish here. Henry Godwin hits Fake Razor with a slop drop, but Fake Diesel hits Phineas with a jackknife, another really rough-looking jackknife, and so Fake Razor covers Phineas for the win. And I couldn't wait for this match to be over.
Yeah, I'm just counting down the days till Fake Razor and Fake Diesel are out.
These are the kind of matches that I wish we could amend our no-skip rule, and I could skip.
Yep.
But after this waste of a match, we go to a backstage interview with Psycho Sid. Vince asks Sid if anyone can stop him, and Sid says the simple answer is no. And he tells Shawn that he will be coming to his backyard at the Royal Rumble, but Sid says he thrives in adversity, so it will be his victory. And he says he's heard that Jose Lothario will be there, but he warns Jose that he needs to stay home. And I agree, Jose, stay your ass at home. But then we go to Shawn Michaels' response to that backstage. Shawn says he doesn't like what Sid did to Jose. He tells Sid that he will take the WWE title back from him, and if he doesn't, he is not going to whine or cry about it like Bret Hart. So we're starting to see a bit of a personality shift from Shawn Michaels. He's not this happy-go-lucky babyface that he was for much of 1996. He's not pandering to the fans as much. So it looks like maybe the Shawn that I was growing to dislike is dead. We'll see. But we'll go back to WCW where we go to our 6th match of the night. It is Bobby Eaton versus Rey Mysterio Jr.
Bobby Eaton hits a beautiful scoop slammer Mysterio during the match. Fantastic form, as always, with Bobby Eaton.
Have you ever heard Arn Anderson talk about Bobby Eaton? He talks so glowingly about him.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything negative about Bobby Eaton.
Nope, I haven't either. But Rey Mysterio wins this match with a top rope Frankensteiner. It's kind of impressive. He jumps onto the middle rope and then jumps and catches Bobby Eaton on the top turnbuckle. It was pretty smooth. So Rey Mysterio wins the match with that Frankensteiner, and the announcers are selling this as an impressive win for Mysterio. Come on now, Mysterio should have been the favorite in this match. I mean, with the way these two have been booked.
You gotta pump up Mysterio somehow. I can see why they did it.
I'm not buying it. But that match only lasted 2 minutes, 47 seconds. Straightforward match. And then after that, we go to a Benoit and Woman video where they're acting real lovingly to each other at a restaurant table. Then Benoit starts talking. He asks Sullivan, what is it like to come home to an empty house? And what is it like being all alone? He asks Sullivan if he has finally seen the truth. And he asks Sullivan, how does it feel to be a loser and to lose the most important thing he ever had? Yeah, just really rubbing it in that he stole his woman.
An awkward segment.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's a very awkward segment. When you know what happens later, it kind of really makes us uneasy watching it.
I didn't care for this segment, and then Tony Schiavone says we didn't need to see that, and I tend to agree.
I didn't enjoy watching it, I'll tell you that. But we'll go to the 7th match of the night. It is Kevin Sullivan with Jimmy Hart versus Arn Anderson. But to start, Arn and Sullivan start brawling on the outside. Sullivan rips Arn Anderson's shirt off. Sullivan throws a chair at Arn, but Arn is able to sort of shake Sullivan off by raking him in the eyes. And so Anderson grabs the chair and he swings it at Sullivan, who dodges it. And they go back into the ring. And then they go right back out and start brawling in the crowd. They just decided they just didn't want to wrestle today. But they eventually make their way back into the ring. And we sort of have a match here. Arn Anderson starts working Sullivan in the corner. The ref goes to break Arn off of Sullivan. And Sullivan takes the opportunity to poke Arn in the eyes. And Arn is blinded. The ref bumps into Arn Anderson. And of course, Arn thinks that's Sullivan and not the ref. So he DDTs the ref.
Very crisp. Good form.
Yep, ref took it well. Sullivan then hits the double stomp, and then he puts Arn in the trio woe. But as Sullivan is running towards Arn in the corner, Arn Anderson punches Sullivan right in the jewels. After that, Hugh Morris runs down into the ring, and he eats a DDT from Arn. Conan runs out. Arn swats him away too. Jimmy Hart jumps on the apron. Arn Anderson grabs Jimmy Hart, and he goes to DDT him, but Sullivan hits Arn Anderson in the back with one of those wooden chairs that breaks. Sullivan pins Arn for the win. Mongo runs down afterwards, and the Dungeon of Doom escapes. And we can hear Jimmy Hart saying that they shouldn't have played that video. And Sullivan tells Benoit that he will see him in 2 weeks. So they're really angry about that video. But we'll go over to Raw, where we have our 3rd match. And it is Doug Furnas and Philip LaFon versus Dr. X and TL Hopper. Man, that's good stuff. And in case you don't know, Dr. X is Tom Pritchard.
Why? Who knows?
And he's wearing a mask, so that's something. We'll just go to the finish here. Philip LaFon hits a Cobra Clutch suplex for the win. But then we move on to a backstage interview with Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn says he has been carrying Bart for years. He will show everyone in WWF why he was the top gun, and he says he is going to win because he is that good. So, of course, we're building the Bart Gunn versus Billy Gunn match. We'll see how exciting that is. Then after this, Vince really put this on Raw to compete with Nitro. We have a Karate Fighters tournament finals between King and Sable. They did their battle here with the toys, and Sable won. King accuses Sable of cheating, and he wants a rematch. Mara doesn't like King talking to his woman that way, so Mara gets in King's face, and as they are arguing, Triple H comes from behind and he hits Mero. Then King and Triple H start putting the boots to Mero until Goldust runs out to make the save. But when Goldust runs into the ring, he accidentally trips Sable.
He rips the shit out of Sable. It was funny.
He took her legs right out from under her.
Yeah, and then she, like, you could tell she's looking at him like, what the fuck?
So what the hell was that for? But Goldust tosses Triple H over the barricade. He gets into the ring as Jody Kinlala grabs a mic, and he tells Goldust that they have no beef, and he doesn't know why Goldust is upset at Triple H for making a pass at Marlena, because Goldust should be happy that the Intercontinental Champion would ever give her attention, because Triple H is a real man. King asks Goldust if he is gay, but he does it without saying the word gay.
He hesitates. He's like, well, you know, you're what are you, queer? You know?
Well, we might want to be right back. Queer?
Goldust says no, and then he punches King.
What's funny is that as soon as he says no, the crowd pops. So it's like back then, it's like saying you weren't gay was worthy of a pop.
Yeah. That's a face turn. Things have changed a lot. But yeah, Goldust and Marlena embrace. So now we're starting to humanize Goldust here. We're going to start, knowing more about Goldust, and they'll even mention that he is Dusty Rhodes' son here soon. But as for the whole segment here, I could not believe that we did the Karate Fighters tournament on Raw. Weird. I know we're building towards the Triple H Goldust feud and all that, but this was a complete waste of time for the most part.
Yes, absolute waste.
But we'll go back to Nitro, and we'll go to our 8th match of the night. It is Rick Steiner with Scott Steiner versus, air quotes, Sting. But we actually do see Sting walking down through the crowd as he makes his way to the ring. We see NWO Sting make his way to the ring, and somehow the commentary team is acting like they can't tell the difference between them, even though they look distinctly different. I know that's their job and everything, but eventually the two Stings get into the ring, and the commentary team is just shocked that there's two Stings. How could there possibly be two Stings? But the real Sting gives the NWO Sting a look, and then he throws his bat to Rick Steiner. And then the real Sting and the NWO Sting turn their back to Rick Steiner, much like Sting has done the past few weeks. But this time, the real Sting grabs NWO Sting by the hair and he hits him with the Scorpion Death Drop. Crowd loves it, by the way. But Rick Steiner, I guess he now knows that Sting is not one of the bad guys, so he throws the bat back to Sting, who thankfully catches it. Can you imagine if he dropped it?
I know, right?
Sting then leaves the ring. I like the segment here for the most part. The commentary was only negative there. So, of course, we did not have a match between Rick Steiner and Sting, which we pretty much knew wasn't going to happen. But now on to the main events of everything. Let's go to Raw's, where we have our main event of Billy Gunn versus Bart Gunn.
As Billy Gunn said in the promo earlier, we'll find out who's his top gun.
Billy Gunn clotheslines Bart Gunn out of the ring, and the two men start brawling right away. Bart Gunn, though, is able to stun gun Billy, and Billy then is down in the middle of the ring. He cannot continue the match, and the ref calls for the bell. Bart starts showing concern because Billy can't get up. And then Billy's wife or girlfriend comes out to check on him as well, and they're treating this much like they did the Shawn Michaels injury with Owen Hart in 95. But they're treating it very similar. They get the whole oxygen and all that stuff coming out. And we see Billy Gunn's lady friend here. She yells at Bart Gunn, how could he do this to his brother? And then eventually Billy Gunn is stretchered out and Raw ends. And for a match with this sort of ending, the match only lasted 3 minutes and 44 seconds. So it just felt like you didn't really do enough to build to that sort of moment there. And I don't think anyone cared enough at this point about Billy Gunn to care if he was stretchered out. I mean, I don't think that really built him a lot of babyface sympathy with the crowd. And this was your main event. First of all, you got two wrestlers going against each other. Yes, his brother and brother, but they're not really over right now, especially not as singles.
Well, especially if you haven't built the program out to make this a main event match.
No, not at all. And you really picked this to compete with them. They should have done the first segment last. They ended with the Bret Hart on Stone Cold and the Sharpshooter would have been much better. But other than the opening segment between the Bret Hart promo Austin Vader match, skip everything else. Not needed. Terrible show after a so-so pay-per-view.
After the main event scene is dog shit.
Yep. Anybody who has watched these shows, you can clearly see how WCW is winning these weeks. But we'll see. We'll wait till our final verdict. We'll see what WCW or we'll see what Nitro ends with. We go to our main event for Nitro. We got the NWO out here in the ring for a Hollywood Hogan promo. Hogan tells Piper that he knows Piper is in the back, and he tells Piper to come out. And he starts making fun of Piper, saying it's going to take him a while to come out due to his bad hip, making fun of his age, all that sort of stuff. So Hogan yells at Vincent to go backstage and get Piper. And while he waits, Hogan starts then talking about Ric Flair now. He says he can beat both Piper and Flair at the same night, at the same time. Hogan calls Piper a mid-level wrestler, and again, he tells Piper to come out. But Piper does not come out. Hogan gets tired of waiting, so he tells the crowd that since Piper and Flair ran out of the building, he is going to entertain us Hollywood style. So the NWO music plays, and Hogan gives us a pose down to end the segment, and he gets a little into it.
It's so funny. And also, I like it because it's like showing Hogan is mad with power.
It was mostly a waste of time, I guess you could say, since Flair and Piper weren't there. But what are you going to do? After that, we get to the previously mentioned Faces of Fear versus Outsiders match. So it looks like the Faces of Fear did say yes. What a surprise. And another surprise, the match starts with all four men brawling. Hall hits a nice clothesline, and Nash is able to hit a big boot on Barbarian. Big Bubba then runs into the ring, and you assume he's going to help his Dungeon of Doom stablemates here, the Faces of Fear, but he shockingly turns on them, and he punches Ming, and he hits the Bubba Slam on Ming. Sullivan runs down, and Bubba punches Sullivan too. Conan rejoins in, and he gets the hands from Bubba as well. Hugh Morris then also runs out, and other NWO members run out after him, so we have complete chaos in the ring. The ring is full of wrestlers, such as the Giant, Vincent, Six, Buff Bagwell. Psychosis is even here, Ice Train, Chavo Guerrero, etc. It's an all-out NWO WCW brawl. As Vince will say, this is a melee. But while this chaos ensues, we see Sting, the real Sting, make his way to the ring. And Arn grabs at Sting and he goes to chop him, but Sting ducks it and he hits the Scorpion Death Drop on Arn. Sting gives Mongo the business as well before Rey Mysterio jumps on Sting's back, and Sting is able to throw Rey off with no problem. And he leaves the ring without touching anyone from the NWO as the show ends, and of course the match is thrown out.
I like that Sting walked off after Rey Mysterio attacked him because he took it as, at least to my view, he's like, you're WCW guys, you still think I'm not on your side. And so that's why he left.
Yeah, Rick Steiner got the hint, but I guess Arn Anderson and the Horsemen didn't, and Ray. But yeah, it still shows that, it's not yet concrete on which side Sting's on, if he's on anybody's side. So I like the ambiguity there. And it was a hot segment.
You didn't even mention Shivani announces that Scott Norton is now a member of the NWO.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. They really undersold the Scott Norton joining NWO bit. Now we're at the point where the NWO is going to start getting bigger and bigger, seemingly every week. So they're going to start getting bloated a little bit. But for the most part, they're still enjoyable segments. But overall, this was a pretty decent show. Better Nitros than we've been getting lately. Wasn't too much that was bad. Most of it was at least enjoyable. Overall, as we kind of have hinted at, it's clearly a Nitro victory this week.
Yes, Nitro by a landslide. If your main event is Billy Gunn versus Bart Gunn.
We got some problems.
And the rating difference was Nitro 3.2 to 2.3.
About the same lead for Nitro. I think they've had about a 1 lead.
The week prior was 3.3 to 2.3, and then the week before that was 3.4 to 2.3. So WWF has had 2.3 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, so they're not growing their audience. I'm surprised that it has not shrunk with what the bullshit they've been putting out. But that is that for the 16th. Please stay tuned for when we go discuss the 23rd of 1996.